Yes, it's me, God's comic Brad Stein. It is. Brad Stein has issues where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collide in a cacophony of clarity. Do you love yacht rock? Well, I got one of the classic pioneers of what has become yacht rock right with us in studio today. Who is it? John Ford Coley of, that's right, that 70s famous band, England Dan. And John Ford Coley, really love to see you tonight. And it's sad to belong to someone else when the right one comes along, and so forth and so on. Lots of classic 70s rock that's become yacht rock. He's on with us. He's also a believer. Interesting guy. Crazily intriguing. And you get to speak to him because that's what I do on Brad Stein Has Issues. Christian podcastage that's very interesting, unique when it comes to the people I bring on. But here's what must be discussed as we tape this, and I always preface it with as we tape this. It is August 3rd, September 1st, 2025. It's the end of August, the beginning of September, and it is Monday night. I reference this space because you might be watching this 20 years from now on Mars, and because this is on the internet now, it lasts forever, and I'm dead, but you go, there's that guy that we used to love, but he died, so it ruined his podcast. But you're watching it now, so I reference point. But, here's the thing. I did want to kind of begin this last week. I was a little despondent, a little frustrated because I felt like I'm trying to do this thing and it's not quite where I want it to be podcast wise. And then I kind of like regrouped and said, God, you're in control of the whole wide world. You've given me this ridiculous ministry. It's up to you to do as you choose and just kind of help get me back on track and move forward. And that's what I'm going to try to do. And by doing that, I felt I needed to begin to return to what started this whole podcast, and that is me talking about things that bug me, things that mean something to me, things that I think are insightful spiritually, things that I think are interesting about the culture at hand. And apparently people are interested in my take on that. Is my take better than anybody else's? Not necessarily. Is my take more intriguing, more insightful? Is it more spiritually discerned? Probably not, but it doesn't matter. There's 1 billion, trillion, and 65 people on the internet as we speak doing a podcast. And so, hey, go watch them, watch me. For whatever reason, certain people attach to certain people. So I'm the magnet and you are the steel. So I just making another 70s reference to a song because we got Yacht Rock, John Ford Coley with us tonight. But here's the thing. I wanted to revisit quickly for this particular podcast day. As I said, it's been established. The dust has settled in the famous Cracker Barrel saga. Now, again, if you're watching this years from now, you won't even know what I'm talking about because that's what happens in news cycles. They come and go. They're really important. Very, very, very volatile. And then they disappear because somebody blew somebody up or whatever. A new mushroom has been discovered that causes you to see into the future. Who knows what's happening? That gets the news cycle going in another direction. But Cracker Barrel for a couple of weeks was a big deal. The dust has settled somewhat. And apparently they went from let's get rid of the logo that everybody liked and go to the logo that nobody likes. Let's get away from the decor that everybody enjoyed, felt comfortable in, came in and enjoyed their situation in the restaurant. Let's dump that for something brand new that we never even asked our people if they're interested. And so they suddenly got big fat backlash. They were now what has become the idiom Bud Lighted, meaning you need to be bankrupt into oblivion for going woke. Wokeism should be the death of any business, and it should be unforgivable, by the way. If they're utilizing woke, then it shouldn't be, let's start over. Let's get a new CEO. Okay, my bad. It should simply be, no, we're never going to watch it again until it dies. It'll be such a cancerous idea to be woke that you'll never do it again. Nobody else in every other business will run, hightailing it away from the wokey agenda. But they didn't. And then, of course, after a week or two of they're making their big play to change everything about Cracker Barrel, suddenly they came back and said, oops. And this is where the problem is. It's why nothing will ever change. Because when they say oops, we still have to say too bad, next. And so we'll never do that. Just like when the NFL mocked us and ridiculed us and people mocking our flag. All of you guys who are conservatives and Christians watching me still went back and you're still watching football to this day. You're still paying people to create a environment that despises your faith. So I can't fix you. I haven't watched NFL since, but you have. And so there's nothing we can do. This is the proof is in the pudding. People don't want to sacrifice, not if it costs them something that they enjoy. But CEO of Cracker Barrel sure wanted to sacrifice. They didn't give a criminy caca about us. And even though it's over now, they've restored the logo. That was a big deal. I don't know if the new upgraded architectural ingredients on the interior of these places has been changed back to the old stuff. Not everybody got the upgrade. Some did. I doubt they're going to switch back. I don't know. But that was part of the charm, is that they literally had a warehouse in Tennessee that had all these antiques and stuff from the period that they'd hang up. So it was cluttered. It was cluttered. It was as though, 1885 barn suddenly had lost gravity, and just crazy crap was floating all over the place. But it was the charm, believe it or not. They had little pegs of games that you would try to cross over and play, and that they had to change because it would mock the people that failed at it, which was funny. Because back in the day, we used to mock things in a funny way. We're being, oh, I guess you're an idiot for missing that. And it was just kind of like, see, it's over the top. That's what makes it funny. It's what makes comedy funny. Over the top. Clearly, I don't treat you this way. I don't mean it this way. You give me permission to speak to you this way. That's what it means to be growth, to be mature, to be able to take a joke, give a joke, and really, frankly, take some power out of the words that no longer can disable you, to hamstring you. There are those in our culture who have certain words that they are forbidden to be spoken or heard. And if those are the people that are controlled by these words, which means they can't control their own behavior. And they don't want to. They don't need to. They want to blame others. This is absolutely crucial, because the quicker you can blame others, as in Adam and Eve, it was her fault, it was the serpent's fault, the quicker you don't have to take responsibility. Well, the CEO of Cracker Barrel did not want to take responsibility for the decision that she made. And yes, she is the operative word. They're always the ones that seem to be more sensitive to the goings-ons of the DEI wokey world, and consequently, they sometimes don't make hard, fast decisions based on what is the most economically feasible way to approach this, but in fact, simply decide to be nice to somebody somewhere that was offended by that because of their own fragility. But nevertheless, here we go. So, but the thing I wanted to talk about was, I mean, like I said, it's kind of gone. They're back to normal. So in a way, this isn't a story, but it is, because I want to tell you that the CEO put out a statement. After all, the caca hit the oscillating blades, and tried to make an apology, a mea culpa, and as in all wokey apologies, it misses the point. The irony is palpable, and I don't know if I said that right, but when Wyatt comes on, I'll ask him if I pronounce it properly. Remember, he can't pronounce virtually anything. So the good news is at least palpable doesn't have an R in it. So here's the big news. I'm going to start reading you a little bit about what the CEO said when all the crazy happened, to give you my analysis of why the wokies will never get better. They literally cannot self-introspect because they don't understand what's at stake. Remember, wokeism is a religion. Progressivism is a religion. Leftism is a religion. It's demonic religion. It's a satanic religion. It's a cultic religion, but it's a religion nonetheless. Consequently, they cannot see beyond what they believe is reality, a reality that they see the world as something that they and only they can fix based on principles and ideas that they've created with oppressor and oppressed, which doesn't really exist in the level and the systemic element that they have decided is true. Well, it's not, but that's why they're stuck, because they can't see beyond their own utopian vision of the world. So let me just break down some of the things this woman said and let you kind of see where I think she's missing the point. So I have it off to the side here, so when I glance down, it's because I'm reading the notes. But So here's what happened. They changed the logo. They changed everything. Robbie Starbuck lets everybody know this is a woke thing. Everybody is up in arms, and everything starts going haywire. And suddenly they like, let's put the brakes on real quick, and let's issue a statement. That'll fix everything. It's definitely, like trying to put, some duct tape on the Titanic. It's like this ship is already kind of sinking. This ain't going to work, but let's laugh at it while it goes down. Here's what she said. If the last few days have shown us anything, okay, this sounds interesting. So the last few days has shown the CEO of Cracker Barrel something that has made her aware, made her sensitive, and she is the CEO, so she's responsible for all the stockholders and the ability for these franchises to do well. So she has to pay attention to the public that does or doesn't come to the store. In the last few days have shown us anything, it's how deeply people care about Cracker Barrel. Now, folks, do you not see something a little odd in that statement? If the last few days have shown us anything, it's how deeply people care about Cracker Barrel. So the CEO of Cracker Barrel just figured out in the last few days that her customers like Cracker Barrel. The CEO said, had we not screwed up Cracker Barrel so that you guys could voice your opinion about Cracker Barrel, we would not have really understood that apparently you guys liked Cracker Barrel as is. Now, we got rid of the Cracker Barrel symbol. We certainly got rid of the old white man sitting next to the barrel because that was incredibly racist, because it was a white guy. Should have been a Mandarin Chinese guy, clearly, because most Cracker Barrels from the South, were Mandarin Chinese. The fact that there's no irony in the idea that they didn't even think twice about using the slanderous term cracker in their name, that's fine. Leave that in because, hey, as long as the white guy is offended, it doesn't really count because who can offend them? They're the problem. Nevertheless, how deeply people care about Cracker Barrel. We're truly grateful for your heartfelt voices. So apparently for the first time, she cares about what the people that come and eat there feel. Now, you've also shown us that we could have done better job sharing who we are and who will always be. Now, what I find fascinating about that is she was waiting for the people to tell her who they are and what they could be. Her job was to know that. Her job was to, at least before she makes a change, maybe do a little research, maybe do a little market, I don't even know what it would be, a questionnaire, take a survey. Hey, guys, do you like this? What would you like if we did something like this? Maybe go to the people that she just discovered likes Cracker Barrel because they go there. You guys think this would be good if we did all this and did it? I mean, talk about an easy way to not make this mistake. Just ask the people that come in with a little survey card, would this be an upgrade or a downgrade to Cracker Barrel's experience? Now, I'm just a high school graduate, and I've never been a multimillionaire paid CEO of Cracker Barrel. Nevertheless, I figured that out. It's just Xeroxing of some papers of surveys. Nevertheless, that's what she said. Just the last few days showed us how deeply people care about Cracker Barrel. We're truly grateful for your heartfelt voices, the company said. You've also shown us that we could have done a better job sharing who we are and who we'll always be. What does that mean? We could have done a better job sharing who we are and who will always be. We don't need you to share that. We already know who you are. That's why we come here. We know who you are. You're the guys with all the antiques hanging from the thing that looks ridiculous. You're the guys with the old white guy in his overalls sitting next to a Cracker Barrel like we're in 1935 Mayberry coming to see the food and eat the waffles and eat the pancakes and eat the butter and play the stinking peg game. We know who you are, so we didn't need you to tell us. We told you who you are. You didn't understand that? Then the company said what has not and will ever change are the values Cracker Barrel was built on when the Lebanon, Tennessee-based chain first opened in 1969. The values will never change. Well, you did change the values. You change the values of the old white guy wearing suspenders sitting next to a Cracker Barrel like he's some old Southern farmer. And I know them because my grandfather, who was a farmer in Indiana, Harold Price, used to wear nothing but overalls and was working till his dying day on his John Deere tractor from 1955, plowing his land. I know those farmers. I know those men. That's legit because I had one. Those values, the statement read, are hard work. Okay, well, you didn't do much hard work in trying to see if we wanted this change. Family. Now, when we say family, we don't mean the nuclear family. We don't mean a man and a woman and children. Not that kind of family, because that would be too exclusive. Remember, we're DEI. Inclusive means everybody that is against the family that the human race has flourished in. They're the good ones that need to be defended and protected. And all those of us who created heterosexuals, who created with their opposite sex partner, created everybody else. Anybody that hates marriage as is was created by people that loved marriage as is and created people. So once again, they don't care about family. Oh, and scratch cooked food made with care. What do you think the odds are that Cracker Barrel isn't making gravy out of cans? You think they're going out and sifting that flour and beating that barley and putting together a big old cast iron skillet and whipping you up some pancakes for somebody with a hair up in a net? No! So don't pretend suddenly that you're doing it from scratch. Cracker Barrel also said its values offering a place where everyone feels at home, except Christians. We don't want you to feel at home. Except people that liked the old decor. We don't want you to feel at home. Except people that enjoyed the experience as is. Then we don't want you to feel at home. You're the only ones that showed up. You're the only ones that could support us. You're the only ones that made a profit for us. We don't want to feel, and so far do we not want you to feel at home, that when you come to your home that you're comfortable with, we have changed the decor without asking. Can you imagine going to church, coming back, and everybody has changed your furniture? That's what they mean by making you feel at home, by making you disoriented. Oh, and also, regardless of where they are from, or where they are headed. That doesn't even make sense. Of course, regardless of where they are from or where what business that's a capitalist business that is a retail business for the public doesn't just say, come on in, nobody asks, where are you from? And where are you heading? Before you buy that, where are you going? Nobody thinks like that. This is dog whistling for all the people that hate traditional Christian conservative American patriotic values. They must be discarded. That's what it means. And that's what she said in her statement to prove we're really coming back to where we belonged all along. That's a Cracker Barrel you'll always find, the statement read. The things people love most about our service, they're not going anywhere. Rocking chairs on the porch. We're going to paint them rainbow. We're going to paint them rainbow. And not in honor of Noah, which is what the rainbow was first signified, if you know what I'm getting at. A warm fire in the hearth. It won't be a real fire because that will burn wood and that will destroy the atmosphere, and then we'll all die from climate change. So it's got to be fake fire, but you're going to see it there in the hearth. Peg games on the table. By the way, the peg games names where it says, oh, you're not very smart. Oh, you're a true moron. And they made it in a funny way, moron, just to be silly and funny. We're going to get rid of that so you don't feel bad for losing. You should feel bad for losing. You failed. Get better at popping your little stinking tees and pulling them out. By the way, I've won that game a few times and I've lost a few times. But when I lost, I blamed it on Wyatt. And when I won, it was all me. Why? Because it's so much easier to blame it on your son, especially when they're young, because they don't know what you're doing. Let's see. Unique treasures in our gift shop. Licorice, right? Stuff like that. And vintage Americana with antiques pulled straight from our warehouse in Lebanon, Tennessee, which is exactly what they stopped doing. We love seeing how much you care about our old timer. Why didn't you find out beforehand? I don't understand. Why doesn't McDonald's just decide to come up with a brand new M and make it green and have it look in Chinese? Why don't they do that? Why would you? The logo was what was associated with it. Obviously, the old dude sitting there minding his own business was Cracker Barrel. So what? Nobody cared. It was just quaint. The poor guy was all on his own. Had to eat crackers out of a barrel because he was hungry, because his crops failed. Maybe locusts attached it. We don't know that. That's the fun of it. We get to make up his dismal life and live vicariously through it. Oh, by the way, she said, we love him too. Uncle Herschel. That's what they call him, Uncle Herschel. Just a tag name they gave the guy to give him some kind of truth, make it feel like he's connected to us, but it's all for show. It's all a grandiose show she's putting on to make you feel that they care. Remember, they just found out 2 days ago that you care about Cracker Barrel, but they sure know how much you cared about Uncle Herschel. They didn't know you cared about the company or the food or the restaurant except for a couple of days ago. But they've always had a special place in their heart for how much you cared about Uncle Herschel. And Uncle Herschel's favorite breakfast platter. Well, listen, he'll still be on the menu and on our road signs and featured in our country stores. So now suddenly started backpedaling. We're going to put his logo on everything except the logo over the restaurant. What are you doing that for? Either take him off or leave him everywhere. That doesn't even make sense. Why did they do that? Why did they get rid of this big emblem over it? The white farmer and over it? Because we all know why. This is what you have to do. You have to destroy anything that appears to be typical European and American heritage. And yeah, it was white. It was white Europeans. The Pilgrims were white people. Yeah. Now, do you want to spend time now talking about how the Native Americans had evil things happen to them? Because that's all true. No reason I know that. It's all in the history books. Well, you guys are kind of wipe out history. No, we all know about the Indians. You know why? It was in the history books. Slavery. We all know about slavery. You know why? It was in the history books. Nobody wants to wipe that out. Nobody says it's good. Nobody's sticking up for it that I know of. What we are saying is that the idea of Christian moral absolute structure was part of this nation. It's strict. It simply was. Even the deists, supposedly, Thomas Jefferson, and deism, of course, means I believe in God, but he doesn't actually interfere in our lives. So he's not worth praying to, said, let's pray in Congress and let's give Bibles to the Indians. He paid for it. Congress paid for it. Taxes paid for it. Why? Because the founding fathers believed that you could use taxes and tax dollars to have religious elements in part of the federal government and or the state government. That's what they believed. Couldn't mandate it by congressional law. That's all the First Amendment meant. You can't mandate it. That way no religion would be put in or out by law. But you can do whatever you want within the confines of the community as to what they want. So there you have it. The company said the biggest focus at the moment is in the kitchen and on your plate. The biggest focus at the moment should have been keeping the business thriving in the ways that people enjoyed it. The food in the kitchen doesn't do you much good if nobody's coming to eat it. But the company said the biggest focus at the moment is in the kitchen on your plate rather than on the headlines about its logo and remodels. Nevertheless, this entire press release this woman put out was about the remodels and about the logo. So once again, they just lie to your face thinking you're so stupid because they think you're one of these hicks like Uncle Herschel that won't notice that they mocked and ridiculed you until you push back and they said, all right, never mind. We'll put the white guy back up there and see if anybody enjoys him. Hell, here's what they're going to have for foods, by the way. Meatloaf, chicken and dumplings, country fried steak, sides that taste like Sunday supper. And yeah, the world's best pancakes. They're still here with a few new dishes joining the menu. Whether you're a longtime fan, which is the ones that you neglected to take care of, or a first-time guest who we're not going to even care where you're going or where you came from. You're a first-time guest. You won't know how to get there because there's no logo. But now that we put it back, maybe you can follow the people that actually enjoy this place. We also want to be sure Cracker Barrel's here for the next generation of families, just as it has been for years. Again, those families can come in many shapes and sizes. We might even have AI robot families, or perhaps just actual robot families. We don't care. We have no concern whatsoever about the nuclear family and the Christian traditional family that has created the West. That we could care less. We despise it, as a matter of fact. We think it's evil. But nevertheless, we'll pretend like we have your best interests at heart. Cracker Barrel explained that planning for future generation means showing up on new platforms in new ways, but always with our heritage at heart. Okay. We take that responsibility very seriously right now. We didn't 5 days ago. but we do now. We know we won't always get everything right the first time, okay? But we'll keep testing, learning, and listening to our guests and employees. My just a quick tip, just throwing this out, maybe learn and test and listen to your guests before you do something stupid. Maybe ask them first before you make crazy crap up and then see what happens. At the end of the day, our promise, it's simple. You'll always find comfort, community, and country hospitality here at Cracker Barrel. Uncle Herschel wouldn't have wanted it any other way. You know, the Uncle Herschel guy that we got rid of, kicked off our logo because he was offensive. He would have wanted us to keep Cracker Barrel just the way it was. Maybe they should have asked him. Maybe there's an AI-generated Uncle Herschel they could have asked about. Too late. Oh, and by the way, spokesperson also said the feedback from guests and team members have been overwhelmingly positive and enthusiastic about the refreshed dining and shopping experience. But a vocal minority may feel differently. Now, this was made just a couple days before they restored all the logos. So after they made this giant mea culpa about we are sorry, let's go back to where we were, we should have listened, our mistake. They literally finished it with, oh, by the way, overwhelmingly positive and enthusiastic about the refresh. So they go back and say, now what we did was still the best. It's still the best. We're listening to you. We're not going to screw it up anymore. But what we did was still better than what you wanted because we're listening to you because Uncle Herschel wanted it that way. There was a vocal minority that didn't like it. And now suddenly that's who you're catering to, the vocal minority. Your hypocrisy, your wokeism is toxic. I see it. And I brought this all up because some of you might say, well, they kind of went back. What's the difference? Give them some grace. No. If it doesn't cost you anything to do foolishness and to lock into diversity, equity, inclusion, which is all a smokescreen for one group given special treatment over others and racism hidden in the idea of diversity. Equity, instead of saying if you earned it, you'll get it, you'll be stolen if you earned it and given it to those who don't deserve it and never will. And inclusion, meaning inclusion always means exclude white, European, male, Christian, heterosexuals. Always means that because it's a racist, bigoted, hateful, despicable belief system. And it's lies about inclusion when in fact it literally means exclude everybody else but our favored few. I don't buy the lie because I'm a Christ follower. This isn't political, by the way. This isn't a political rant. I didn't name a political party. I didn't name a presidential name. I didn't name anything. I dealt with what actually happened, what is going on culturally, what is going on philosophically. I'm bringing it up. I'm casting it out for everybody to see, to help you understand and discern what's at stake. Your job as a Christ follower, to be a truth teller at all times, is to see this stuff and stand for it. Now, look, I said we should bankrupt them into oblivion. And you could say, well, but aren't Christians supposed to forgive? And they are. And if she said, folks, I guess we shouldn't have done that, and we made a mistake, and please forgive us. Forgive us. I didn't see it that way. And we are now getting rid of DEI because it's Marxist, which is atheist, which is anti-capitalist, which is anti-American. So we're using the capitalist system to make lots of money off of Cracker Barrel. But this DEI system, which is the antithesis of that, we're dumping it as toxic. Do that, mea culpa. We're dumping that. We're not doing woke anymore. We're going to do the best we can for the most. Everybody's welcome. I don't care who. I don't care if you get a transgendered softball team to come into Cracker Barrel. Come on in. Bring him in. I'm a Christian. I don't give a crap. I'll eat with you. I'll have a laugh with you, but don't pretend you're not cutting out those of us who have conservative values and pretending you're the good guys. Don't say that you call me a bigot and hateful and closed-minded while you're doing that to me and deem yourself the elitist, but the virtuous ones. You don't get permission to treat me despicably and then do it by calling me despicable and then never looking inward and saying, what happens when I do the same thing? Why do I get to redefine the same behavior as evil for you and good, virtuous altruism for me? Why? Because it's a lie. Lie is from hell. Jesus said, I am the truth. You as a Christian have to be a truth teller at all times. Truth teller. And who's the father of lies? Satan. Any idea that couches itself in a lie and pretends to be true is demonic. I don't care if you don't believe in the spiritual realm. It's true. It's real. I'm not apologizing for anything anymore. Jesus Christ was the Messiah. He's God. Nobody else has ever proven it. Just him. If you're a Christ follower and you don't behave like that, get out. Go find another church. You don't believe in this, or you couldn't stop talking about it. That's why I wanted to discuss Cracker Barrel before it vanishes away into the next news cycle. Yeah, everything's at stake when it comes to a free society. You know, guys, I got to say, after I go off on my crazy rants, I feel exhilarated, but also, it's a little difficult, a little challenging. But it's true. But I also feel like, the guest is interesting, intriguing, but it's kind of lighthearted. Not always. Some of the guests are rough. Last week we had Mikel Armayo, who was sold into sex slavery. That's a rough interview. She was redeemed. God saved her. And it's a beautiful story. But come on, it's rough. The poor woman was a sex slave. So some things are rough and some things are more fun. John Ford Coley is a fun interview. And if you are an older guy like me, you'll remember the songs. I really Want to See You Tonight was their most famous. But I do need you to know that there is some fun in this podcast too. Hopefully, or at least an attempt at fun that oftentimes fails miserably. And that can be just as fun, but it can't be done properly in the proper chemistry unless I introduce you to my sidekick, my director, my producer, my editor, my son, who extruded from my loins. He exists because I existed first. Please welcome Wyatt Leroy Stein. Son, are you still there, or are you finishing up your Cracker Barrel takeout?
Sorry, I'm still almost done with my meal.
What do you like? Have you ever eaten a Cracker Barrel?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah, what do you like?
Oh, I like the peg game the most.
You do like the peg game. Have you ever beaten the peg game?
What do you mean beat?
Have you beaten it? Well, you got it down to one peg.
That's what the peg game is for.
I thought
the peg game was the toothpick hostel.
Are you afraid of AI?
Am I afraid of? Okay, that's kind of an interesting jump, but no, I'm not afraid of AI.
You think AI could be demonic? Your mom thinks it could be.
Yeah, I know she can. I know she does. I don't know.
Then again, your mom thinks cottage cheese could be demonic.
No, she doesn't. I know for a fact that's facetious. There's no absolute. Explain the logic.
Of what?
How cottage cheese could possibly be construed as demonic.
Well, because it's curdled milk. Now, what would make a perfectly good gallon of milk go bad unless it was demons?
Neglect.
Maybe the demon's name is neglect.
Well, I mean,
I was trying to give it like a.
Yeah.
We don't have the money for the big, like it should have been like some kind of evil thing shot. We would have got that dough. So I just made the funny, scary voice. Yeah. Does that sound right? Did it scare you? Did it spook you?
No.
Dang it. Well, I'll work on my scary voice. But I think demons are real.
Mm-hmm.
I think angels are real. I think there's a spiritual realm that most of us don't pay attention to, that's really out there, and that it affects our lives on a regular basis. And sometimes it causes us to have dates, and sometimes it causes us to become incels. Sometimes it causes us to see demons in satanic rituals, and sometimes it causes us to see it in AI. AI could be dangerous. It has some wonderful features, but it's certainly weird that you can now basically take a picture of you and turn it, make it work and activate it and basically look like a cartoon. And let's face it, they can just fake the thing that you went out and robbed a bank. And what are you going to say? Well, no, we have the photos. Like, it wasn't me. It was pretend me. Can we call it that? Pretend me? Is that what an AI version of you would be? Pretend me?
No, it's not pretend. It's fake. There's a difference.
Fake me.
Fake me.
Okay. Well, listen, I am grateful, son, that you're always there, always lending your insight, your wisdom. You're a smart young man. You have great instincts when it comes to tech engineering. Of course, you got a bachelor's of arts in game programming, so why wouldn't you? And a minor in canoeing. But here's the deal. When we bring a guest on, I always like to keep people guessing about the guest, somebody they're not expecting. If this podcast continues to grow robustly, it's going to be because of the odd and interesting things we're going to bring to the table. I've got a really special guest coming the week after next, and special not because better, but in an intriguing new type of format of what I'm going to try to do in the future, called The Atheist Experiment. And it's interesting. It's going to be fascinating. And I think it could be a series of stuff I do with an atheist. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. It's going to be next week. But this week, let's talk about it. When I was in high school, I think I mentioned this, by the way, in the interview, I remember hearing this song, I'd really love to see you tonight, and some other songs too, from a band, a duo called Dan and John Ford Coley. And it's funny about life, Wyatt, in this podcast, which is my little miniature television show. You know, never could I have imagined or thought of in 1978 that one day I would talk to the guy singing this song. Never would I have thought that one day I'd have my own little studio on YouTube, because there was no YouTube. There was no studio because there was no computers. There was no cell phones. There was no GPS. It was a world that children your age, son, would have simply fell over, dried up and rotted, because you wouldn't have known how to survive. You couldn't have get from point A to point B without a cell phone telling you how, literally saying, turn here. I had to use paper maps. This is why I was a wilderness man. This is why I could survive in the wilderness of 1983 in a world that would have been so foreign to you that you would have been in shock, in awe, and fear. But your dad circumnavigated it, came through, became a comedian, magician, actor, eventually got married, and eventually we made one of you. And that's what became my sidekick. And here we are in 2025, seeing all the flaws in Cracker Barrel and wondering what it would be like to have a special interview with a special man who had a special song that I remember at a special time in my life, 1978, my graduation. Folks, I hope you enjoy this ride if you know yacht rock, folks. And if it's brand new to you, it might be a nostalgic look at what music used to be like before AI took over with its demonic music writing abilities. My friends, please enjoy this interview with John Ford Coley. Well, welcome to Brad Stein Has Issues. It's always fun to have special guests on, and I've had a lot of artists as, it's part of my club, part of my people, part of my family. But this particular artist is something I was excited about because very accomplished, very successful, very gifted. But also, and I'm sure he's heard this before, part of my teen years. I grew up hearing this man's songs with his partner on the radio in the 70s in high school. And it's just always kind of surreal in this little game of podcasting that you get to talk to and meet people that you remember and somehow affected you, whether they knew it or not. And suddenly you're talking to them and you're friends with them. And since I had Susan Olsen from the Brady Bunch, it's like, who didn't see the Brady Bunch? And suddenly I'm talking to her. And it's fun. But this is a musician. And I feel like maybe of all the performance arts, maybe the musicians and the comics have the most in common because we use words and vocal dynamics and so forth to tell a story. and help people connect to it. But it's a different genre, and so we're going to discuss that. But this is a blast from the past and someone who's still out there making it happen. So just shows the strength of their material that they can keep making it happen this many years down the road and people still coming out to see it. So please welcome one of the original three named men, John Ford Coley. How do you do, my brother?
Good to see you, Bubba.
Man, so you are the first guys I remember with three names. Like,
Really?
I remember when they would have the middle initial, Michael W. Smith, Michael J. Fox. Right. But you were like, I don't remember any other three named guys. So which one is your favorite of your three names?
Ford.
Ford is your favorite.
Because it's like a middle way. It's something you climb over to get to point A to point B.
That's right. Now, is that your middle name? Is that a Matt?
No. My real name is John Edward Coley. I was named after my great-grandfather. And nobody could...
So I've already mispronounced your last name.
No, everybody in my life has never been able to say Coley. It was Cooley, Connolly, Coley, everything in the world.
But the right one.
So Jimmy Seals from Seals and Cross, Dan and I were looking for a name.
Yeah.
And Jimmy came up and he said, John Ford Coley. That's your name. Take an L out, like Red Foley, and it's easier to pronounce. And I went, okay, I like this. This is good. Because
it's got a flow to it.
It's got a flow to it.
A rhythm, yeah.
And everybody remembers it. And ironically enough, I've had people that have made comments about the name. And where'd you get the name? And I go, well, now, when I heard this, Jimmy was thinking John Ford, the director. He thought that would be a nice flow in there. I heard John Rip Ford, who was the last Confederate general down in Palmetto battle. It was the last battle of the Civil War in Texas, and he also buried a lot of the men from the Alamo. So that's immediately what I heard.
Interesting.
I'm a history nut.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting though how I guess. I don't know what drives artists or what makes us think the way we think, but even to have a melodic sound to your name is like it connects to us. It makes us.
It does.
It makes us for whatever. I mean, I don't know what art is really. I don't know what when you talk to especially musicians. They're the ones I probably have seen the most interviews with. Is musicians and songwriters. And I'm a comic. Then there's, I guess, people who write plays and film, screen plays and so forth. But everybody says the same thing. They don't know how we do it.
No, it's inspiration.
We don't know what it. But is it?
There are things.
I believe it's a spiritual realm. Like there's something that's out there that we're just tapping into.
Absolutely.
And they call it the muse, or in my case, I believe, God is the creator of all art. But it's like it's, and here, let me ask you this, because I've said this to guys before. It's like, I'm sure this is true, especially because you have songs you wrote so long ago that you've played for so long. They almost stop feeling like your song. It's like they weren't even yours. They're just out there, and I'm saying, does that make sense?
The last album that I did was a thing called Eclectic. And so the last song that came in on that record, I walked into Tom, the guy, Tom Worth, that helps me produce stuff. And I said, Tom, this song came to me last night, and tell me what you think of it. And I played it, and he said, well, first of all, it makes me mad. And I said, really? And he says, yeah, you could have waited to write that song with me. And I said, but Tom, I didn't write it. And he goes, no. You said you wrote this song last night. And I said, no, Tom. I said, this song came to me last night. I have no idea who wrote this song. It's not even my style, but it's got my name on it. And he said, I've heard you say that before. Okay. Because there are sometimes things come so fast. And then
doesn't make sense.
Other times, it'll take me 15 years to write a song.
Yeah,
you just kind of keep coming back to it, and it's not working.
Is that what musicians do? I've never really analyzed like how you breaking down songwriting, because you can get the documentary about the Beatles, and it's like they came in and were screwing around, and in real time they wrote the song, and now it's like that can't be the way most songs are written on the fly. They have to be something that took time. Sometimes it comes like I've heard it a million times. Oh, that big hit I had took me 15 minutes.
Right.
The other one, so So are you saying that sometimes you'll get started and you're like, and you get stuck and maybe you come back to it down the road and it might take years before finally there's my finished song?
There's 2 songs on that particular record. One of them was started in 1997, and I didn't finish it until about 2015. Okay. Every time I would come in, there would be something. I'd go, no, that's not it. That's not it. As a matter of fact, it was called That's Life. And I'm struggling with this thing all those years to put it into place. Had the melodies, that wasn't a problem. Getting the lyrics was a problem. And one day, I sat down and I was reading Deuteronomy. What is it? Deuteronomy. Forget. Anyway, it says, I give you the power or the choice of life or death. Choose life. And when I read that, I went, there's the song. And it literally just vomited itself out. I couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
15 minutes. All this time.
But that's what I'm saying is, I mean, maybe it's not even definable what creativity is. Maybe it's not something that can be analyzed. Maybe it's good that we can't understand it. Because now we got AI, right? We got this sort of pretend, it analyzes everything that's been out there and somehow it puts together rhythms and frameworks and rhyming that work. But here's the thing, sometimes it works. Sometimes it's not bad. You're like, now it is scary.
But the thing is that if you're looking at that to be the thing that you're depending on. No, you got to use your imagination.
Well,
when I would listen to certain songs, it's like I was notorious for getting up. My wife used to get so angry at me. I'd get up in the middle of worship and go, guys, you need to learn some more words besides worthy and majesty.
Right,
come on, stop.
Get a thesaurus.
And do something, just take a chance.
Yeah.
And we don't do that anymore. The reason why I enjoyed the hymns so much was simply, and those things would put me to my knees. These other things would take me out into the hallway. Is that when they wrote those songs, they wrote them because they could not write them. It was something deep and internal in them, and there was a spiritual connection, and bingo. They had to put these things down, and it came down 3 and 4 verses.
Yeah, no, the hymns. When you get used to modern praise and worship, and I get it, they were trying to connect to people's sensibilities or what they're used to, especially younger guys. It's like, I'm not listening to that old stuff. Oh, this is kind of like I'm used to, pop vibe to it. Okay, I'll listen. So I understand what they're trying to do. It was like as we're taping this, we just recently lost Chuck Girard. I don't know if you know who he was, but he was with Love Song, one of the first praise and worship bands out of Orange County, Chuck Smith's Calvary Chapel. Anyways, one of the first contemporary praise and worship, early 70s stuff, Jesus People stuff. Just passed away. Alyssa Childers, if you know her, that was her father. Anyways, but the thing that is fascinating to me about hymns, it's somewhat archaic. Yeah, some of the language is not what we use. But what is so clearly visible to me when you listen to those compared to a lot of modern stuff is what they could pack into 5 or 6 words is, to me, that's the craft of songwriting. If you can say that much like that, that's hard to do. And I don't even know if there's a pop equivalent. I think some people would say Dylan was that way. He was really good with his lyrics and very tight.
Joni Mitchell was that way. Dan Fogelberg was that way.
Yes.
Just great lyrics. They would reach in. And it's like I had used Dan Fogelberg as an example a lot of different times. You do your best to keep the wolves, what do you expect? Away, right? He said, at bay. And I went, now that's clever. That is using the language.
Yeah.
And we don't use the language anymore because we don't know. We go like, well, man, like cool and gnarly.
Right.
And you go, no, there's a whole lot more words. Like you said, grab a thesaurus somewhere. And just explore.
But that's part of the joy to me of my particular performance art is comedy. All I have is words. I don't have anywhere to hide. See, the thing about stand-up, and I don't know that this is the same with you, John, but I've known a lot of musicians in my life just because you're in this circle, many times the same circles of festivals or whatever you're performing. You get to know folks, and especially in the Christian world, Nashville, a lot of my friends are musicians. But I'm also an actor. I've been in numerous films and so forth. So I've been in a lot of genre styles of performance art. All of them are like so terrified and mind-boggled by stand-up comedy. They're like, how do you do, like they act like this thing is like the ultimate, you've got to be kidding me, how do you do that? Now, I don't know any different, because if you're good at something, you take it for granted. Mm-hmm. I believe that a gift, like if somebody says this was a gift from God, I believe that's literal. Mm-hmm. I believe the gift means I didn't earn this, but I can do it, so it was given to me, so I owe God the dignity of using it well. Yeah. Because I don't know why I can do this. I just can. But that's the thing about comedy. If I was trying to analyze it, because I've never been a professional musician, if I was trying to analyze what maybe would frighten folks is if you're in a band, and I'm not trying to diminish this, so I hope you don't misinterpret this, but if you're in a band, you can have an off day and kind of lay back. Like, unless you're the lead singer, it's a little rough. But if you're the bass guy, and I'm like, I don't feel in it. I can still, as long as I'm hitting the notes, I'm good. It's like, it wasn't my best day. I don't care. Because everybody else filled in the blanks. I'm by myself.
Yeah.
I got nowhere to hide if it's eating it.
That's why I play by myself most of the time, simply because, again, it's a challenge. I do a lot of comedy. I've loved comedy all my life. And I never considered myself a singer, so I tell a lot of jokes, I tell a lot of stories. I've got, I wrote a book, and I've got all these things that come up all the time. The thing that challenged me the most is that I live by life lessons. Something happens, I guarantee you, I catalog it, I log it in there, and it's going to come out somewhere. When I was about 19, I think, I was going to school, North Texas State, and studying English literature. That was my whole deal. But I'm playing in the band. I'm not practicing. I don't have my piano up there. So I'm not progressing the way that I should. I come in on the Thursday night for rehearsal. They say, John, we're letting you go. You've been in this thing since you were 16, but we're letting you go because you're not progressing unless you straighten things out. And they did the same thing with the bass player because everybody, had advanced. I'm devastated. I don't want to get out of this band. I love this band. The next morning, I had the most terrifying experience of my life. I'm driving to school, and for the first time in my life, I heard voices. Scared the dickens out of me.
Like audible voices?
Audible voices.
Like somebody's talking to you, and you're like, what is going on?
And it said, I gave you the gift. What you do with the gift is up to you. But if you don't use the gift, I will take it from you and give it to someone who will. And it scared me. First of all, I'm hearing voices, so I'm going insane. It's clear. I'm driving to school. There's no place to pull over and even get a soft drink. Yeah. And those kinds of things make an impression on me because I look at the fact that God, at some point in my life, I don't know when it was, but he reached down, kissed me on the head and said, go have some fun. And I did. We went out. We were exposed to all of these things. I would learn from everyone. I loved comedians. I'd go watch them all the time. The Ice House in L.A. Somebody would say something. Dan, for example, was one of the funniest people you would ever meet in your life. He could say things that would literally put you on the floor until that man stepped on stage. And then it was like somebody put a giant piece of gaff tape on his mouth and he wouldn't say anything. So I'm the one who's left to say all this stuff. I learned what worked. I learned what didn't work. Don't say this. Don't do that. Yeah. And it was a great experience. So that's how I pretty much, live my life on things.
Well, and I don't know, kind of.
But try it.
Yeah.
Try it.
Well,
it might work. If it doesn't, there's only 50 people in the audience.
John, what is the fun of our business? If and even that kind of diminishes it, because even though it is a business, it's show business, and if you don't take care of your business, it's going to cost you. How many artists have lost everything because we just don't focus, because we're interested in the fun of the art. That's what we're interested in.
And you want the reaction. You want the
Yeah,
reaction.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we're hoping they're like what we're doing.
Yeah.
Well, we ain't gonna have much of a job, but we love the creativity. It's in us. You said something earlier about you can't not say it. When my comedy career was altered, I was going to say destroyed, but I'm going to say altered.
Okay, and just quickly tell me how it was altered.
Well, okay, so I was a stand-up comic. I was in Southern California, and I was performing in the clubs. In the 90s, there was a lot of comedy on television. Everybody, A&E had, I mean, I was on the evening at the Improv and Caroline's Comedy Hour and Showtime Comedy Club Network and MTV Comedy, half-hour comedy. So all those little half-hour-y comedy specials in the 90s, everybody had one. And I was working the biggest, the Funny Bones and the Improvs. I mean, the biggest franchises of the comedy clubs in the country. So I had proven that I can do this because I was paid to do comedy. So I'm a professional comic, and I was in the best rooms in the country. So I kind of made my point. I can do this. I'm a comic. But I was a Christian. So I never cursed. That wasn't part of my nomenclature. I didn't do sexual jokes. So the only limits that ever existed to my career in the pursuit of how I wanted to present my career was that I put on myself. I'm not going to use those words. I'm not going. So I never felt shackled artistically, because anything that I chose to do or not do was my choice. So I was comfortable with that. I wouldn't want somebody telling me what I can and can't do, especially with topics. As a comic, I believe there are no topics off limits. That's how I believe. Now, I can be weird as a Christian, because you're like, well, wait a minute. You're going to joke about abortion. You're going to joke about, I don't even know what, gay marriage or trans thing or whatever. I don't know what what I'm getting at. But the answer is yeah. That's what comedy is. It finds funny in places nobody else can find it. That's what makes it one of a kind. There's nothing like this.
And everything is funny. Somewhere, if you dig deep enough, there's a comedic sense to it.
Yeah.
See, my mom and my dad were diametrically opposed to one another. My dad was very stoic, very straight-laced. Mama was pure Three Stooges. That woman did nothing but make me laugh all the time. So I get a lot of that. My daughter sometimes says, because I got both of them, she'll go, Dad, you need to smile sometimes when you say these things, because people think you're going to kill them. And I go, no, I wouldn't kill them. I might nick them, but I wouldn't kill them, So the funny thing is that comedy, to me, like you said, doesn't have restrictions. People have restrictions on their sense of humor or what's offendable to them. Yeah. It's like, gosh, guys, lighten up, because somewhere it's funny to someone.
Well, and one of the things that's happened in comedy, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, just again, because, to me, we're all in the same boat as artists, even though we choose a different genre. Yeah. Artistry is a very specific subculture of humans. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody wants to do it. Not everybody.
Timing.
It's just, yeah.
You don't have the timing.
That's
sorry. You're not funny.
That's right. Right. Or you can't write lyrics well, or they don't. Here, listen, the people will tell you. The people tell you if you're good at this. They either like it or they don't. Now, that doesn't mean you should stop, but if nobody buys your albums, what are you supposed to do? Think, well, I guess nobody gets it but me?
But the thing is that my attitude has always been, first of all, if you like it, you're right. If you hate it, you're right. It's a value judgment.
It's subjective.
You can find 10 people that love it and go right out and find 10 people that hate it. When I was in high school, we had a yearbook, and there was a supplement to it, and it had all kinds of little quotes and things like, that'll be the day. And I looked at it, because, again, you want to see your name in there. I was in the band. I was popular. I had all these things. This one girl that I was extremely good friends with wrote an article called That'll Be the Day. And one of the comments in that was, that'll be the day when John Coley tells a funny joke. And I do nothing but that all the time now. And you learn what's funny, and you learn what not to say. But you got to go up there and throw yourself out. And comedy is worse than music, because again, you're up there by yourself, and when the laughter is dead and the room is dead,
Yeah.
you can't just jump into another song.
But I've said this before, and I really want to, I don't know that I've dug in this deep enough, and I want to, so I'm glad I'm thinking of this now with you. I've always said this, and you tell me what you think about it, if I'm accurate or if I'm missing something. I said the one thing about comedy that I think is unique is it's the only art form I know that you have to rehearse in front of the audience.
Yeah.
You have to, because you don't know if it's working timing-wise until they say, what? Oh, I got to fix that. Oh, they're not, oh, they laughed. Oh, they didn't laugh. Oh, and sometimes comedy, nobody knows how hard it is to write a 2 or 3 minute bit.
Oh, yeah.
As a comic. It'd be like me saying, well, I can rhyme some rhymes together. I'm a songwriter, right? It said, well, yeah, you can rhyme, but there's no depth to this. There's no nuance to this. There's no...
Actually, when I was down in South Carolina, and one of the times that I'd seen you was down at that little church that I went to.
Yeah.
You said one of the funniest things, and I was cracking up. Nobody around me got it.
Why, remember this.
Yeah. You remember these things.
Remember this moment. He's going to tell me how great I am.
You said, God, let me make sure I get it right. You discovered that manatee was a Seminole word.
Oh, right.
And it means God gave up.
God gave up.
I was on the floor. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Well, that's a fun one.
I've used it. I've stolen your joke from you.
Well, that's all right. That's the greatest compliment you can give somebody, is stealing from them. I mean, we're all stealing from each other, even if it's subconsciously, right? It's impossible to come up with something brand new.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would think that'd be really difficult with... I've thought of this before, and I'm getting off track, but I don't care. I love the creative process. I would think it'd be very difficult to write a melody, because you would think that any melody is going to be derivative of somebody somewhere. I don't know how
melodies come to me. I mean, again, I'd like to say that I do.
But do you ever, like George Harrison, happened to him once. He wrote a thing, My Sweet Lord, and come to find out he got sued because it was She's So Fine, and it was legit. They're like, that's the same melody. So I'm not saying people necessarily are stealing something. They might. But sometimes you're stimulated by so many things, especially in the business. You're listening to music. You're influenced by it. And you don't realize I'm redoing this melody. And how many nuances can you make out of a melody that hasn't been used in 5,000 years of humans making up melodies? You know what I'm saying?
I had one, it was a song called Soldier in the Rain. It's very classical, because that's how I was trained, classically. And so you put those elements together, because there's no way that it's not going to affect you somewhere along the line. Well, we had the melody all written. The middle part comes in. It's very symphonic. It's very epic. It's big. It's huge. Chords are flying every which direction. The only thing that I remember was that thing came in a rush. I don't know where it came from. It's got my name on it again.
Yeah.
But it's like that was a heavenly kind of a thing. And so many times we think that we've done something. We've created something. Nah, you just kind of happen to be there, if you want to get honest about it.
Well, let's talk about that. That's kind of the direction I was going about songwriting, because it's, it's something that only songwriters do, obviously, clearly. But I wanted to get your thoughts about this idea of how one in comedy figures out a joke's working. And again, the hardest thing about comedy is when you start, when you first begin, because if you're doing something and they're not laughing, okay, you have to assess 2 or 3 things now that you don't have to 20 years later. First thing you have to assess is, maybe I'm not funny. I don't even know if I am. I thought I was, but everybody told me I was funny. Everybody said I should be a comic. Maybe I'm not funny. Or am I not doing this right? Is this not positioned properly? Or is it out of time? Because there is usually the drummer's the funniest guy in the band because it's about timing. They're just good at timing, and they always die. But they die first. They party hard. But
the first time when I go up and I've got to use a drummer in a band, because again I play by myself.
Yeah.
I'm classically trained, and if I've got to play with a band that I'm not accustomed to, first person I walk up to is the drummer, and I say, I'm classically trained. That means one thing to you, that time doesn't mean a damn thing to me. So you follow me. I'm not following you.
Really?
I'm going to slow down. I'm going to speed
But they're
up.
supposed to be the metronome.
But they tell me every time, following you was the most fun I've had because it wasn't pedantic. I didn't have to worry about, I just had to follow what you were going to do. And we have a good time. But it's like
I didn't know they
was
could do
trained
that.
way. Yeah,
Doesn't
they
that
can.
throw them off because they're supposed to be locked
Not
into
if
the
they're
2/4
good.
or whatever you call it?
Not if they're good. They'll sit there and they'll figure it out. You can lay back. You can pull back a little bit. You can speed up. I've had drummers that can take a 4-minute song and turn it into a 2-minute, 20-second song, just like that. Because again, they're not paying. They get crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, no, just pull back, relax. That's why I play by myself.
But let me ask you this then. So, like I said, I have an idea in my mind, and you're getting started. And something about comedy is this, John, is I think the most difficult thing, I guess, and I mentioned this earlier when I said how people are so like in awe of this particular form of art. I don't know why. I think it's because you have to be willing to fail a lot and really be and face ridicule. Because the biggest thing that people fear is being embarrassed in front of a crowd. I mean, it's like the number one fear is talking in front of a crowd. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to be shamed. I don't want to be ridiculed. I want to be thought stupid. Well, comic is literally putting himself in a position going, you guys can do whatever you want, say whatever, boo, hate, heckle. Here's the difference. I ain't going anywhere. I can do this, and I'm going to figure it out. Now, that's the thing that puts a funny person into I can be a comic. You're willing to take whatever comes your way because I know I can do this. You got to have that instinct and that faith that I have this gift and be willing to suffer for it. But here's the deal. Because I'm doing it in front of the crowd, they're helping me with the timing because sometimes it's this simple. You do a joke, it's kind of there, but it's not quite. It's kind of there, it's not quite. First time, third time, 12th time, 15th time. This 23rd time, I took one extra beat before I said that. Oh, just got to give that a little more beat. Oh, I didn't set it up quite right. They didn't understand. The subtlety that makes the joke go from to that's hysterical and sounds so simplistic, like you just said, let's say the manatee, can take a year.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted now, it's not about me.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, is there an equivalent? Because I've always felt like, well, if I was in a band, I could get in my garage, we could lay down the tracks, listen back and go, we did exactly what we wanted. We're all in tune. Yeah. We're all in harmony. Everybody hit their hit the proper chord. Everything sounds exactly what I want. Doesn't mean everybody's going to like it.
No.
But at least I can go, that sounds fine to me. You didn't need an audience to walk you through that. Comedy does. Is there an equivalent for a songwriter?
You as a comedian are at a distinct disadvantage. I walk out stage if I want to, because I normally talk first.
Yeah.
I can just play because nobody expects me to talk.
Right.
They expect you to talk. And sometimes your timing's off. You're not feeling good. Sometimes the audience comes in and they're mad.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't have a chance no matter what
that's
you
so
do.
true. Listen, I'm going to let you go, but I keep going with that. But I do want to say this. There's an old showbiz adage, there's no such thing as a bad audience.
Right.
Wrong. There's some terrible audiences.
There are. But the other thing, too, is that it took me a long time to put it together because the insecurities just come up all over the place. You go back to there was one night that I walked off the side of the stage and I literally yelled and there was people around me. And I came off and had a horrible night. And I pointed my finger at the sky like I do quite a bit. And I said, God, if you want me to do this, you're going to have to make me better. Do you understand? And it was like, oh, yeah, okay, that's it. This is in your lap.
What is a bad show for a musician?
A bad show is when you can't get the response.
And that
People
just means
sit
they're
there.
clapping more, they're sustaining
it's
it. So there's just no energy. There's
no
no
energy. And that's on you because, again, my attitude finally came down to the fact that, look, they came to see you. They must like you. So what are you concerned about? Just if something doesn't work, it doesn't play right? Yeah. I never considered myself a singer. So I don't go out there and try to compete with that way. I just go out and I play and have a good time. If I'm having a good time, you know as well as anybody else, it's spirit.
Yeah.
You can be on that stage, everything's going right, the sound's perfect, you're hitting all the notes, and the audience, well, you get no more than a ho-hum out of them. Other nights, you couldn't hit a note if the night depended on it, and everybody's going crazy. So you can't figure it out.
You can't figure it out. No, I've had those shows too, and they're rare, where it's where you literally leave the stage going, I wish I was that funny. I wish I was that good. But because everything just you're the greatest gift to come. And other times you're working twice as hard for half the laughs, and it's a lot of, you're doing all the work. They're not giving you anything back.
Again, like I said, I remember all kinds of lines and stuff because, again, you never know when they might come in handy. And there was one guy, he was a comedian, he was talking about, he said, comedy is better than sex. He said the reason why is because I'll get up and I'll play, and the audience will go, you're great. And he says, and I'll go back to the, or you're not funny, or something like that.
Yeah.
He says, and I take somebody back to the room, and they go, you're funny. And you go, okay. And it's like, you can't tell.
Right.
You can't. I've had people come up to me and say, when are you going to start doing, stand-up comedy?
Yeah.
And my comment always is, well, in order to do comedy, you have to be funny.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm funny.
Well, listen, and that's good because then it's very natural, and you allow yourself the freedom to say whatever you want. And you're absolutely right. If they come to see John Ford Coley, they come to see a musician, songwriter with music that they love, and you've written some wonderful songs. So funny is a bonus.
Yeah.
They don't expect that. So it's like, I didn't know he's totally, because they know you from your records. They don't know any other way to think about it unless they've seen you live. And so the funny isn't expected, thus they give you much more credit for it. It'd be like, so you're right. Anything you do without claiming, skill at it, you're probably going to get more accolades for it. But I just don't want to leave this topic without getting, though, your take on this, though. Is there an equivalent to writing a song and, once it's recorded, it's kind of done, right? And then I guess, so do you, maybe this is the better way to frame it. So do you have a new song and you start experimenting on stage first to make sure it feels right before you record it?
Absolutely. I hope to be able to go on stage and work it out. Because no matter how many times, if I do something new, I can play it 100 times. I step on that stage the first time, it's a wreck. It's a train wreck. It's a disaster. I forget words because you start thinking about it. It's got to be natural. There's so many times now that words will just come and I go, oh, I'm glad, I wasn't thinking when I did that, because otherwise I would have forgotten the lyrics.
No, but you don't go up and extemporaneously write lyrics. You have these ideas. So have you played around with a song live for a while and literally changed the lyrics? Like,
Absolutely.
I got a better idea for this. Yeah. Okay.
Because again, you expand it. And when you get up and you do things, there's something, you have nights that you walk up there and it's just divine inspiration. It's like, where did that come from? This popped into my head, bingo, and I did it and it worked.
Yeah.
So there are times that I change the lyrics all the time. The thing that I don't like to do is listen to the recorded songs because It never changes. It's always the same. I can't mess around.
Yeah.
There are some nights I'm really up to see you tonight. I'm just feeling in a funny mood, and I might go, I'm not talking about M&Ms,
Yeah.
and everybody's expecting something else.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's a freedom up there.
Yeah.
And I've been around people that have been on stage that are so controlling and everything is so calculated and manipulated. And you go, man, how do you have any fun at all?
Yeah. No, I've told people, if that young comics or whatever, they're just, can you give me some thoughts? What I said, I really can't, because this is one art form that you just have to get on stage. There's no cheap, quick way to this thing.
And they're like vitamins.
Yeah.
Okay, might work for you, but that vitamin isn't going to
Yeah,
work
yeah,
for
that's
me.
good. That's true
So
too.
you
Especially
need
because
to
you have a
find
different
out.
style and a different way of doing it. It's
Your
just
delivery's different,
That's
everything.
right. But I will say this, and I do think this holds true. I'll say, if there was a simple framework to help you start moving forward, I could sum it up in 2 words, and you already said it: have fun.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds like, well, what I don't know what you're really saying. And what I'm saying is this, in have fun. They don't know if you're good or not yet. You're going to have to prove yourself as soon as you start talking. So let's assume when you first hit, they don't know that you might be the greatest comic they've ever seen in their life. They don't know what's coming yet. You haven't proven yourself. You haven't established yourself yet. So if you come up scared, and you deliver your line almost like you're asking the question, is this funny?
Yeah.
You're making them uncomfortable, because the last thing people want to watch is somebody bomb on stage because you're eating it, you're having a miserable time. But here's the thing, you're making them uncomfortable. Because I have to watch this, so now I don't want to
Oh,
deal
it's
with
painful.
it. So I'm gonna heckle you off, so I don't have to deal with watching this train wreck in real time. But if you go in there and here's how I tell them to think about it. It's like if you haven't acted, maybe it's not quite as easy to replicate. But if you ever, especially live in a play, there's a fourth wall, and that's the old drama term, where the audience is a wall. You're in a set, and there's the back, and here's this, and there's the audience. Well, there's really no audience. If you're in this scene, you're in a house, that's a wall. I'm in the house. You're looking through the window watching me live my life. That's how it's supposed to be in a play. The fourth wall means I look here, but I don't see you guys because you're not there. Okay, that's how it works. That's why you never look into a camera when you're in an actor, because you break the fourth wall. It's like, I see you now. Oh, this is pretend. I've lost my suspension of disbelief.
But you, and I've seen you actually work best with your back against the wall. You work best with your back against the wall because, again, you're having to prove yourself.
Yeah.
Again, it's like, I'm notorious for when I've done film. They would just say, John, take it, because I look at that script and I go, yeah, okay, and then I'll just go off. I was in one film, a thing called Dream. I was Dreaming a Little Dream. I was a drummer in the band, had to learn to play drums. Timothy B. Schmidt was the bass player.
Oh, nice.
A lot of really big people were in this film. And so one scene was with Steve Railsback. Steve was really hard to get to know. He played Charles Manson in the film Helter Skelter.
Oh.
Intense guy. So
In the 70s or 80s?
in the 80s.
I remember that
about
guy,
86.
yes,
But
yeah.
he was in the deal about Charles Manson in the early 70s.
Yeah.
And so I had a scene with him. We were rehearsing the scene, going back and forth. We did it probably about 3 or 4 times. And I'm supposed to go, way to go, Harry. Walk off. Well, Steve was hard to get to know. So when we did the rehearsal, that's what I did. When they put it on film, they committed it to film. I reached up and I said, way to go, Harry, and I slapped him on the arm like that. Reached up, grabbed him by the cheek and tweaked him and I said, you done splendid. I saw the glaze come off of his eyes. And because it really shocked him, So it's just fun. Let's have some fun with this thing. The next morning I come in, the producer comes over and goes, John, what did you do, Steve? And I said, I didn't do anything to Steve. Why? What's the problem? He said, Steve marched in here this morning, told me if he's got to share a trailer with anyone, it's going to be you and you only. That was it. And I went, I don't know, but, we got to be great friends.
Yeah, yeah.
But you break that barrier.
That's right.
And
Well, you did the most important thing in acting is you took risks. You said, I don't care. There's no rules to this scene. I am a human being creating this character. You don't get to tell me what to say, what to do. Well, it's all written here.
Yeah.
No, not if you want this to be real.
Right.
I'm going to let the moment speak for itself. And actors love that because you force them to have to grapple with real moments, and that's when it feels real.
Well,
so clearly,
it's real.
That moment you just told me you know how to act, because I've always loved. I always would, if there was any rehearsal. I've always been low budget stuff, so can never afford rehearsals. But if there was any, I always try to play pretty much to the letter, and never wanted to expose where I was going so that it happened on camera, because then it would be beautiful, because it'd be like, what's this? And they have to deal with it. And I want them to surprise me too, so it can all be a natural moment. But you said that you have worked out songs on stage. It's helped you to understand something isn't working. And I don't know if you know this, the Marx Brothers, before they made their films, would do the entire film in vaudeville, so they could work out the beats and measures to make sure it works. And it's like, I never thought about that, because it's such brilliant comedy. But I just never thought, because most of the time, or oftentimes, it depends on the band. A lot of times, though, you don't hear them out touring the new stuff until the album hits the street, and now that's what they're saying. It's our new album, we're doing the new stuff. Especially intricate bands like Steely Dan or something, where it's really just about instrumentation, and really, it's like, they don't give a crap. This is what you're getting. Yeah. But if you're kind of a pop guy and people want to enjoy and sing along and so forth, maybe it's nice you can do it. Do you say, hey, it's a new one I'm working on, guys? What do you think?
The hardest thing in the world to do, especially when you've been established, because you're relegated to certain songs.
Right.
There are songs that I cannot get off without playing, no matter whether I'm on a stage for 5,000 people or I'm sitting in a club in Nashville with 40 people. You've got to play those songs.
Yeah.
You cannot get away from it. I hate that, because other people can get up there and they can play all sorts of new things and get away with it. I play something that's new. They go, well, that doesn't quite sound like the other one.
Yeah, right. Do you feel like your taste or your style has evolved?
My style has always been whatever I just want to hear. I was raised on classical, show tunes, opera, Stephen Foster, a lot of church songs, the Beach Boys, all of these different styles. Flamenco, I love flamenco. I love Irish music. I love to hear things that are new, as long as they've got spirit. That's the thing that I look for. I listen to a lot of songs that, I'll give you an example. There was one song that I hated. It was on country radio, new artist. I hated the song. And I'll go ahead and tell you what it was. It was Keith Urban, his song about, but for the grace of God go I. I listened to that song on the radio, and I went, this is absolute garbage. I heard him one night. I just happened to turn on Grand Ole Opry. He was up playing that song just acoustically. And I'm mesmerized by this song. I'm listening to it going, this is brilliant. What did I not like about this song? And it was because at that point, it was as honest as it could be. Everything else was contrived. We need a hit. We're going to make this thing formalized. We're going to put everything in there that should be a hit. Whether it was or not, I don't know. I just know that I didn't like it.
Right.
But I heard it on the acoustic, and I marveled. I marveled at the song.
Well, one of the things that I think is great about your career, and your original. I mean, do you call it a band, Dan John Ford Coley?
Yeah,
is that
it
the
was
name
a
of the
duo,
band or the
yeah.
duo? Okay, so that's obviously where I got to hear your music, and I referenced that when I introduced you. You know, I remember it on the radio in probably would have been 77, 78 is the Really Love to See You Tonight, because it was a big hit.
Yeah.
I don't know if it made number one, but it had to be it was played all over the place.
Number 2, we got beat out by Played That Funky Music.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that was a disco era. So you had a lot of competition.
Well, in 1979, I think that Love's the Answer was the only song that was in the top 10 that was not disco. Now, if that doesn't prove to you that there's a living God, I don't know what
amen.
you're looking for.
Well, listen, the thing that I like about, or one of the things that I find interesting about your body of work is you're one of those bands that people have heard of, probably, if they know anything about music, and they've been around, unless they're 20 and they don't know anything in the 70s or 80s. But you're one of those bands, John, that you go, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Olivia said, and then you hear a song, you go, oh, that's them. Oh, I know that. Oh, and they keep, there's a good handful of your songs, I think, that aren't as immediately attached to you, like they wouldn't think of it, but when they hear it, they go, "Oh, that's a great song. I didn't know that was them." Mm-hmm. Or you think it's Seals and Croft, or there's other guys that were similar in that time frame that you go, "Was that them or them?" Because they were similar type of styles. But I'm curious about the songs themselves and how they might have applied. For example, I've heard a legend that it's sad to belong to someone else when the right one comes along. Mm-hmm. Personal experience?
No, as a matter of fact, that was given to us by Randy Goodrum.
Okay.
He wrote "Oh Sherry" for Steve Perry, things like that.
Okay.
Now, the funny thing about it is that I thought that was a comedic song, number one, because again, you're with the right one. All of a sudden, the real right one comes along.
Right.
But what if that's not the real right one and the real right one? So, for me, I called it the non-commitment song. But the thing that's funny to me has always been in music is the snobbery that goes on. Oh, you don't play this kind of music. You don't play hard rock, etc. A good buddy of mine, as a matter of fact, I spent the weekend with her in Los Angeles this last weekend. I was in town. We connect up as much as we can. Cherie Curry.
Yes, she's been on the show. She's been on our show.
I adore that girl.
Yeah, she's sweet.
I literally adore that girl. And so she asked me to play her last show at the Whiskey about a year ago. It hadn't even been a year. It was her 65th birthday. She was going to close out that era, and so she had me play. People are going, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Your songs
Right.
and Cherry Bomb and stuff like, wait a minute, those are nowhere close. And you go, yeah, they are. It's called music.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had a thing one time, it was really funny. On the film, we were talking about various bands that we had played with. And so I said, well, Dan and I played when we were in the band in Texas. We played with Led Zeppelin, 2 shows with them. No, you didn't. You couldn't possibly play with Led Zeppelin. You're no. And I went, okay, fine. I went home that afternoon from the film. I pulled up the articles from the Dallas Morning News in Times Herald. We had 2 articles in there, had my name in both of them, and it talked about how we, quote, flew over Led Zeppelin and blew them off the stage. And I showed them that, and I said, guys, I don't have to
Where was this?
This was in Dallas, 1969.
Wow.
I said, I don't
you
have
opened for them, or you were?
for 'em.
Okay.
I don't have to lie about this stuff. Right. I've done a lot of things. I'm not going to tell you about all of it, especially some of it, but there are things that go on all the time, and it's like, no, it's music to me. If you don't like it, doesn't mean it's not good. It just means you don't like it.
So you've got these wonderful songs. I guess were most of the biggest hits from the 70s, or did they cross over in the 80s?
No, they just barely at the 80s. Love is the Answer. And then they tried one more, but Dan and I had already split at that point. So they didn't really, put a lot of
let's not
into it.
sort of gloss over that man, because I don't obviously know him, but he was your partner. So how did that kind of come into play? Were you both songwriters and you said, maybe we should do this
As a matter
together?
of fact, Dan and I started off in high school together.
Okay.
They had a band. Guitar player quit because his girlfriend didn't want him playing in the band anymore, so he quits. And everybody in the band except Dan wants a keyboard player. Dan wants another guitar player. So they found me in ROTC. They asked around. They didn't know. I'm classically trained. I'm playing piano competitions.
Okay.
And so I auditioned. I got the gig. Dan hated me. We did not get along at all. We used to travel to various gigs together. Well, just to kind of warm up. You know, again, we're not friends, much less, buddies. And so we would sing things to warm up. Everly Brothers, Chad and Jeremy, Righteous Brothers, all these kinds of things. Peter and Gordon. And we discovered that we had a blend. We had a sound together. And it was a natural blend. It's like a brother's blend. And so we just kind of started writing things together. Dan was a writer. Dan was a saxophone player and the vocalist in the band. I never considered myself a lead vocalist. I was always a harmony guy because that's where I excelled. And we got this thing going. We ended up, playing acoustic shows and things like that. It took off, had a life of its own. I never expected it to go this far. I expected to go back and be a teacher or work in construction or horses or something, back home in Texas.
So you were harmonies in the band?
I was harmonies in the band. And, there was a funny thing because Dan didn't sing harmonies. So if I ended up singing the lead on a song, I sang the harmony as well. I found a record. A guy called me one time and he said, "Do you have a copy of the Legendary Captain record that you guys did on A&M? It was the last one, never even got released." And I said, "No, I don't. I'm looking for it." And he goes, "I got a copy of it." He says, "How much you want?" So he sent it to me. I ended up putting it out. And I listened to that thing. And when Dan and I are playing, and we sing a lot of unison, the old England Dan John Ford Coley, when I sang harmony to myself, it was two different bands on that recording. It was Dan and John, and it was John and John, because Dan didn't sing harmony.
So you went behind yourself and
Yeah.
recorded the harmony on a different track and then mixed it.
And I did that a couple of times when we did the recording on Really Love to See You Tonight. It just, again.
So your lead
it's
and harmony on that song?
Yeah. No, not on that song. No. That was Dan singing and I sang harmony.
Okay.
Again, that's what I gravitated to because that was what I was the best at. And I had a really high voice.
And then you guys write that song?
No, as a matter of fact, Parker McGee wrote that. He also wrote Nights Are Forever Without You.
Yeah.
Now, the funny thing about it, Dan and I, neither one wanted to do that song because we thought that it was a female song. And we want to write our own stuff, right? I saw the first royalty check off of that song, Really Love to See You Tonight. Wanted to write my own stuff. I found out just how quickly and how mercenary I can become. Calling up Parker McGee, going, "Parker, hey, buddy, what else you got?" So he gives us that song.
Well, how does that work, too, by the way? If you record it and you're the hit, it's from your band or whatever, I know that the songwriter gets a certain royalty percentage, and I don't know if it varies or if there's an industry standard, or I'm not sure if it's a union deal. But does the line share go to the song recording,
It actually goes
even if you didn't write it?
Yeah, it goes 50-50. He doesn't touch artist rights. I don't touch songwriter rights or publishing
But when it's
rights.
played, the royalty split.
Now, when it's played on the radio, everything goes to the writer and to the publisher. I don't get
Really?
If it sells, then I get.
So you get
sales.
only the sales of it, and of course, people buying tickets to come see you live, you get that
Right.
dough and
You
that
get
merchandise.
and he
and whatever.
doesn't get that.
But they get all of the recording, right? What the
So
heck?
it's like when they call me up and say, "John, they want to use this in this film," right? So I know immediately we're going to give you X amount of dollars. I'm going to get half of that. He's going to get half of that. And then Dan and I are going to split that. And then if we had managers or things like that, then they get their
They get a
percentage
taste
of
as well. What is a typical royalty rate if they use you in a film? Is it just a buyout, or is
yeah,
it?
it's a
just
what
a flat?
do they call it? A right to, oh God, what is it?
But is it like just a flat fee?
fee, flat
Is it
fee.
here's
Yeah.
10 grand, 50 grand,
Right.
5 grand, whatever it is. Thank you, and that's
it.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Don't call us, we'll call you.
Yeah, but it's such a great addition to films. Oftentimes, is
Well,
playing these
a lot
other
of times
songs.
it makes the film.
Yeah.
Because you'll have something come up. It's like they were telling me the other night, you got to watch Waterfront. Your song is in there. I watched it and couldn't hear it. My friend in Texas says, yes, right here behind this. I'm listening, go, I don't hear it. Where is it? So sometimes it's buried so deep, sometimes it's prominent.
Like it's playing on a radio in the background
Yeah.
somewhere or something. I see. So, what song are you most proud of that you've written?
Soldier in the Rain.
Soldier in the Rain.
Yeah.
And that song is recent?
No, actually, that was 1977.
Holy smoke. Okay.
And that came out on the Dowdy Ferry Road album. They were thinking about using it as a single on the radio, but first of all, it was long.
Okay.
Number two, it was entirely different than anything that you expected out of Dan and I. That was probably the funniest thing that hit me when we first started going out to L.A. You'd go into the recording companies and you could actually play songs live. Can't do that now. So we'd walk in there and we would play our songs, and inevitably someone would go, what are you guys? Are you country? You pop? You rock? You folk? You jazz? You classical? What are you?
Yeah.
Because they couldn't put us in a peg. When we ended up with Really Love to See You Tonight, they were finally able to put us in a peg.
And it is?
And that's the fact that it all sounds like that.
But what is that peg?
It was kind of a pop rock
Okay.
sound.
Yeah. So who would be equivalent? Like what other groups would you say you're in their
Well,
category?
Hall & Oates,
Hall &
Seals
Oates.
and Crofts,
Okay.
duos in the Loggins and Messina, although Loggins and Messina were considered a little bit more rock and roll.
Okay.
Simon and Garfunkel, we got that a lot. So you get stuck in that mold, and you can't get out of it, because when we tried to get out of it, because we were writing songs that we considered were heavier,
Yeah.
more rock and roll, we went into a radio station, and this is right at the end. Love Is the Answer had already come out, so we're following this song up with the song called Hollywood Heckle and Jive, entirely different. We played it. The guy goes, who is that? We said, that's us. He goes, no, that's not you. I said, no, that's us. He goes, no, that's not England Dan John Ford Coley.
Oh,
And I
says.
said, no, that's us. And he said, no, you don't get it.
Oh, yeah.
That's not the England Dan and
Yeah,
John
yeah.
Ford Coley we want.
Yeah, I got you.
And at that point, I knew, okay, either we quit now or we're going to be relegated to this, or we're never going to breathe anything different.
Can you think of any band or musician that really made it big and really completely changed their style or something? I mean, major, that ain't them no more, and it still worked. Is there anybody that's ever been able to transition to something else and go, holy smoke, they've reinvented their career?
Well, there's been a lot of people that came after us that I can really look at, like Madonna. You know,
Okay.
She was one that was always on the edge of something else. Believe it or not, you get bored.
Oh, I know.
Elton John.
Elton
I
John.
remember one night we were playing with him. He took us to England with him for a month, right at the very beginning of our career. He didn't play Border Song. I love that song. And so when he came off stage, I said, why didn't you play Border Song? He said, I'm tired of it. He said, I'll pick it up again. But then he went on to write Benny and the Jets
Yeah.
and all these other kinds of styles. And that's
He
what
definitely
really took
has.
off.
He is one of those guys that saw what the world wanted at that time and could do it. Oh, we're doing disco now. I can do that. Well, the Bee Gees did that.
Yeah, Bee Gees.
The
did
early Bee Gees stuff was
Great
so
stuff.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Olivia
soul.
Newton-John. You know, she's doing, the I Honestly Love You.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she's doing, Let's Get Physical.
Yeah.
And you go, those things are so diametrically opposed to one another, but they loved her because Back during the time that we were doing this, it wasn't so much about the artist as it was about the song. Elton could do a song that stunk, ain't going to buy it. Rolling Stones could do a song that stunk, ain't going to buy it. We want to hear this. So again, it depends on the song back then. Now it's all about the artist and the vocal stuff.
So I've been in the same boat. Like, for me as a comic, I've always said there's like two things that still stimulate. Once you've done it a long time, so it's not like I'm
You're
as
established.
yeah, and so you know what you're doing. I'm 7 albums in, so it's not like I've got a lot of material out there. I don't know if it's the same for you. I don't know that I'm as moved or inspired by laughter as I used to be. When it was brand new, it was just, this is the greatest. Oh my God, they're laughing. Oh, it was so fresh. I can't believe I'm doing this. Once you're kind of used to it, it's kind of like, well, I'm supposed to be able to bring you laughter. That's why I'm a comic. So I'm not as amazed or inspired. It's always fun. Of course, I want them to laugh. But the things that inspire me now is new material, because the excitement.
You can get away with new material. I can't.
Yeah, well, maybe, but new material is just another joke, but it's probably still in the vein of my delivery style because it's a very specific cadence of the way I do it. I use a lot of vocal dynamics with the mic and whatever, which I guess a musician may do as well, especially if they have a lot of high octaves and they have to play with where they're at. But I do that because I don't curse. So for me to make up for the F word, I had to use louder, explosive words or bigger gestures. I had to find other ways to make up for this easy laugh that comes with certain words that people get laughs out of. And it always would kind of bothered me, not because somebody was dirty. That's their business. I believe in free speech, but it just felt lazy to me. Yeah. It's like
it's cheap thrills.
It just feels that way to me, and that doesn't mean there's not great artists that were. George Carlin, I think, is probably the best stand-up there ever was, with his intelligence. He the way he broke things down. There's nobody like him.
But he would never step on that stage and try to emulate Gallagher by smashing.
No. Oh no.
It's
but he also altered when he started in the '60s. The hippy dippy weatherman. It was pretty much suit and tie. And when he went hippie in the '70s and really started pushing the envelope, he was becoming something else. He was literally the antithesis of what they thought he was, which was a straight ahead comic. Clean, everybody can laugh. And he said, hey, I'm going in a whole nother, and now I'm taking on the government. Now I'm taking on this. And I love it. I love that he would do that. Some of his stuff is so good. But, Richard Pryor was dirty. What are you going to say? He's not funny? Yeah. No.
He was funny.
Because there's a difference, though, John, I've always said it like this. If the punchline includes a curse word, if you remove the curse word, is the joke still funny? And if it's not, then I don't think it's a funny joke, because the word kind of punched it up. And you can use words to punch things up. So I'm not saying there's not a technique to it, but be smart enough to save it. If you're going to use the F word, do it twice in a set, not 25,000 times.
Well, see, that was what happened with Blazing Saddles. Because, again, I'm coming out of Texas. There's a lot of things that I'm not really wanting to hear.
Yeah.
Again, you're pushing the envelope. But it was shock value.
Yeah.
And by the time that film was over, if I never heard the BS word, it's like, okay, I'm saturated. It's not funny anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that was what they were trying to do, is to show you that it's not funny. It's shock value.
Yeah, right. Well, and so I guess I find inspiration and joy, as opposed to just enjoyment of performance in new things. Because now the difference is, I told you earlier in the interview, when you first start, you have a lot more pieces to the puzzle you you have to figure out, like, am I even good at this? Once you started getting laughs and you find a few bits that work, so you know you can count on them, so you can grow a repertoire, it's different. Now it's like, well, at least I know I'm funny. Now I just got to keep coming up with new material. But that's a hurdle you have to overcome.
But not only that, see, you and I are more fortunate than people realize because, first of all, we live in Nashville. You have the opportunity with all of the numbers of clubs that they've got. You can work that thing out.
Yeah.
So you can play a new song and instinctively know you're coming up on that bridge. And you know what? That thing's worked 100 times in my living room. But I can tell it's going to die the worst death. And it does. And you go, doesn't work. Therefore, I'm not going to put that on recording. You have the opportunity to work.
Yeah, and I didn't even know that musicians, frankly, did that. I really thought that they just kind of figured it out and then recorded it and then sort of forced you to like it.
Well, no,
listen,
that's what they do on a normal basis.
Yeah.
Because again, they don't want to take the time for you to sit there and work out the little bits and pieces.
but
of that
you
song.
have a curse.
I've got a curse
Because
I can't
they
play
come
the
to
song.
see you to hear
Right.
probably anything, but there's probably, going over your catalog a little bit, there's probably at least 5, if not 7 or 8 songs that everybody's heard. That they go, you got to do that.
I call them the 6.
Okay, so I'm right. The other songs are like, oh, maybe I've heard, but there's 5 or 6 you immediately go, oh, that one.
Well, even still, I have people say, I had no idea that you did Sad to Belong. I had no idea that you did, Nights of Forever.
Yeah.
We didn't see you back then.
Yeah.
So that's good because, again, it's exposure. Now, the biggest thing for us has been such a boon is this yacht rock phenomenon.
And you like that? You're
I
okay
love
being
that.
categorized
I
like?
have absolutely
Okay.
no problem at all doing that.
Okay.
We've played more in the last 5 years than I've played in the last 40 years.
Oh, good.
Because again, everybody wants to hear those songs. They all know them. They're wearing yacht captain's hats and stuff like that. So it's
And
fun.
who's also like Fogelberg, who passed away unfortunately, but he would have been in that world.
would have been in
Who
that.
else is part of that kind of genre?
Well, again, the ones that mainly get recognized are Kenny Loggins and Mike McDonald, but I tour with Ambrosia all the time. Peter Beckett from Player, Elliot Lurie. Oh, he did.
How about Little River
Maybe
Band?
Come back. Little River Band is out there, but the thing that we have to deal with now is because so many of these artists are dead, or they can't sing, or they can't travel. I mean, we're all up. I'm 76 years old. And you think, how long can I do this? And so they have band members that have nothing whatsoever to do with the songs. They weren't in the band. Half of them weren't even born yet, but they're good players. So they come up and they assist with playing stuff.
Or even
then-
singing the high notes. I mean,
Yeah. I was like, I play with Three Dog Night a bit. Danny, because I used to play with those guys back in the 70s all the time. Toured Japan with them. Great guys. Loved every one of them. There's only Danny now. Danny's up there doing the stuff, but he's got 2 other singers. Danny
Wasn't
Hunt-
there a Chuck
There's
Negron?
Chuck Negron. Chuck's alive, but Chuck's really
Wasn't he the lead singer, though?
He was one of the 3.
Okay.
There was Corey Wells, Danny Hutton, and Chuck Negron.
Okay.
So they would actually split the vocals on all of those songs.
Okay.
And one of the best things that I got for new music came from those guys because we were in Japan. They had something like 18 songs. I'm with these guys for almost 3 weeks, going all over Japan, standing on the side of the stage. They'd play a hit, then they'd play a big hit, then they'd play a major super hit, then they'd play a killer hit, then they'd play a hit and another hit, and then a killer hit. It's like 18 songs. And I sat there and went, what a blessing. What a curse! You can't play anything new.
Oh well,
Everybody
I want
was
to untease that because it's in some ways we are a commodity. We're a product. We're a gizmo. Yeah, they come to get on a ride that they're used to, and they expect it. And as an artist, we have this tension. Now, again, I'm not I have to assume, I don't know this, but it can't not be true. I'm guessing the pleasure is, I want some new stuff, because it's fun to experiment with new ideas.
Yeah.
But you're locked into these other things. But the thing is, John, they're showing up because you have so be grateful that you have this amazing catalog that gives you a career forever.
Like I said,
and it's part of the milieu of music.
Yeah, well, it's just like I said earlier. You know, God reached down, kissed me on the head, and said, "Go have fun." Now, you do get to points to where you want to move forward, you want to progress, and things get pushed on you that you cannot escape. There was one song that we did I absolutely hated. I went to Canada to get out of singing the song. I came back, Dan was trying to sing the harmony, couldn't do it. So I have talked to various schools and stuff, and one time, because again, they want to know, how do you get into the business, what's going on, and one time, I just took a chance. And my wife, I thought she was going to kill me. I said, well, the entertainment industry kind of works like this. You get one or two choices of what you're going to be. You can either be a prostitute or you can be a whore. And God grant you the wisdom to choose wisely, because that's all you get. And it was like, and I'm thinking, oh no, I'm going to get killed. But it's like, it's true. You know, you get stuck here, you can't get out.
Okay, but here's
but you're grateful for it.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm exploring with you, just like peer to peer though, is like, what is it that we really were trying to do all along? You know, I've said this before. I said I don't know that I really wanted to be famous. I wanted to be popular. Now, here's what I mean by that.
I just wanted to work.
Okay, but to me, famous is an odd place to be as a human, because it gives you an iconic status. It gives you almost a worship-like status, which I'm not comfortable with. Plus, I just think no human deserves that. I don't care what you do. Well, I will respect you for your gift. I don't think you're better than me. If I met Paul McCartney, I don't give a crap. I'm grateful for what you've done. Yeah. You're not better than me. I've never had a starstruck.
But that's the thing, is that we've turned it into a competition, and it's not. It's like we've turned music into, other than what it was intended for. It's intended to sit on the front porch, play, have fun with it, enjoy it. The object of music is not a recording contract. It's not a publishing deal. It's to write it because you love it, because 99.9% of everything you write is never going to be heard.
Yeah.
You may play it for your cousin, but you're not gonna reach the people in Boston or Lewiston, Maine.
But I'm wondering if maybe, and this is kind of going to take us to the next direction that's important for us to talk about, the spiritual dimension of our lives. But I mean, what do we owe our fans, if anything? They paid, they got the babysitter, they drove 5 hours, they got the hotel, they thought you were worth their time and money to just be in your presence. So I feel like in some ways I owe them something. Now, you're more famous than me by far, and I'm guessing you'd say, well, I'm not really famous compared to blah, blah. Well, we can always compare, but nevertheless, certainly you're more famous than me. But in my little subculture of conservative Christian comedy, I'm kind of famous in that little world. It's like being famous as a, bluegrass band. If you're into bluegrass, oh my gosh, the so-and-sos are here. I've never heard of it. They don't mean anything to me. But it does to this guy who happens to love that style of music. So, I've had people come to my shows. Always kills me, especially when they drive hours. I can't believe it. It's like, you drove hours to see, it doesn't make any sense. And they've only seen me through YouTube or DVD or whatever. And you can tell that they are in your presence and they don't know what to do. Because you just meant something to, I don't get it. I never met this guy. It doesn't mean, but I feel like, John, I owe them what they think I am. Because I mean something to them. So I say, hey, nice to meet you. Thank you. In other words, I'm very courteous to them. I try to give them time because I can tell, I guess I'm a big deal to them. So I want to give them that. I don't think I'm what they think I am. But do I owe them? Do you owe them that allegiance?
You don't know what kind of an effect you have on people personally, the way that you behave, etc., and the music. One of the biggest, it was like lightning going off all around me. Last year, I mean, I had people come up to me all the time. This song meant this. My husband and I did this. I met my first boyfriend. So and you go down memory lane. So that's what I figured out my purpose is now, is to take people down memory lane to remember the good things. I was playing on a cruise, and after I played with Ambrosia, because I played my 4 songs, and you've got a variety of other artists. Well, Peter Asher, who did James Taylor and Linda Ronstadt, and was in a group called Peter and Gordon. They asked me to come play with him on his set. So I went in and I played. I just got up and did Dan Fogelberg's leader of the band, because I had a guitar. And then when I stepped off, the guy came over and he said, "Would you sing on World Without Love?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, I'd love to. How's it go again?" And he goes, "Please lock me." I said, I know it, right? Yeah. So I stood up with an old buddy of mine, Susan Calsill from the Calsills.
Oh, yeah.
And we're singing the song, and I didn't miss a note, didn't miss a word. But all of a sudden, I felt myself go pale. And Susan actually looked over at me. She said, "Are you okay?" And I went, "Yeah, I'm good." And I still get emotional about it. I see myself riding in the car with Dan, going to gigs, singing these songs. And I got so emotionally moved. And my first thought was, this is what people are telling me, what my songs meant to them.
Yeah.
And so when I go out there and play, Cherie and I had a really long talk about this weekend. What is the purpose? What are we doing this for now? It can't just be the money. There's got to be some motive for doing this. And we both came to the conclusion, you're out there, you're taking people down memory lane, you're showing them what their life was like and how good it was, and they just... It's wonderful.
But the one thing about music that makes it one of a kind is it's the only art form I know of that sticks with you, not only from where you were, but it's like it locks in a moment in your life. I was 16.
Right. Exactly.
We had just broken up. It's always something very specific, and it's locked. And every time I hear that for the rest of my life, I'm there. I don't get that. Nobody invites me to their wedding and says he's playing our joke.
Right.
It doesn't happen. But music does.
You know what goes on with you? The same thing that happens to you happens to film. When you've heard that line, when you've seen that scene, you've seen it. Okay? You heard that joke.
Yeah.
You can't tell it 5,000 times.
Right.
Music is different in the fact that you can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of songs that I loved that I can't stand to listen to now. But if I wait for a while, just like Elton, I'm going to hear that song and go, oh yeah, good song.
In comedy, they have this term called the comic's comic, where they might be popular with the crowd, but there's something about what they're doing technically that comics just really appreciate. Maybe it's just a real, very interesting discovery of how they're delivering the material or what they're using, or it's very obscure. There's something about it that comics are just drawn to, because it's not just common. It feels like they found a different flavor that most of us can't find, and we just have an extra appreciation. Sometimes they're not approved. But Norm Macdonald was considered one of those guys. Right. There was a handful that there's just something about what they were doing, the courage, the uniqueness of it, that
Subject
stood.
matter.
Yeah, or that. I said earlier, there's no, limits, I don't think, to topics. And you said, well, you're a Christian. You said you would joke about abortion. I said, yeah, I would.
Yeah.
But I didn't say how I was going to joke about it. I wouldn't joke about like, this is funny.
You wouldn't do this in a church.
Yeah, well, it maybe. It depends on. See, here's one of the things, John, and I've said this a million times, but it's true, and I know this specifically as a comic, because comedy is words and words are ideas. Christian church in America has been trained to judge content over context, and that's a huge mistake. If you don't get what they mean as opposed to what they said, you're never going to be deep. You're never going to be sophisticated.
Yeah.
And you're never going to be, to me, the best representation of Christ. Because there's lots of legacies that our people have left to culture other than Jesus, which is about as big as it gets. But artistically, we used to leave the Sistine Chapel, the Pieta. I'm talking about holy crap stuff. And then we came up with this idea that maybe the arts are for the devil, and maybe we, in your music. So it's like, well, that's devil music, and I made a whole joke in the '70s. One of my jokes in my first album about backward masking, because it was so stupid to me. It's like, they taught me that, if you take certain rock and roll records and you play them backwards, as so many of us tend to do. And so it was a joke because it was just so foolish to me. It was so absurd. And it made us look less relevant, that we just didn't connect it to logical thinking people who are trying to understand this God thing, which, by the way, is hard to understand. God's mysterious and difficult.
Yeah, it is and it's not at the same time.
Okay.
Because the thing is that we have our own preconceived ideas of what we think it's supposed to be and what it's supposed to mean. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily true. First of all, I've studied in the synagogues for the last 20 years, just for basics, just for foundational kinds of things. And I literally get up. If I go to church, I haven't been to church in 5 years now, because the last time that I was there, I talked with the preacher, and it's like, you don't want to go deep. You just want to do this. Mm-hmm. And so I would get up and I would walk out, and it would literally take everything in me not to turn around and say, just for the pure hell of it, you might want to actually try reading that book you claim you're talking from, because that isn't what it says. I guarantee it's not what it means. And the way that happened for me, that was probably the biggest. It was the second time in a span of almost 40-something years that I heard a voice. The first time, again, I was traveling to school, and, God, I gave you the gift. I came home from a Shabbat service on Saturday. I told my wife, finally, I feel like I'm getting a foundation in the teachings of God, because, again, we're getting all Torah, and this is foundational for all of the things over in the New Testament. Marcion founded that. The next day we went into church, and they had what's called a soaking session. So you could read, pray, meditate, sit there. They played music, and just kind of be in your own world and communicate with God. I sat there, and as loud as I've ever heard anything, I heard, the way you were raised, where you are now, and where I've been taking you is like reading a book of 1,000 pages, but only starting on page 800. How do you think you're going to understand 800 to 1,000 if you have no idea what the first 799 pages say? That was like bullets just exploding all around me, because I've experienced this, because all of this pretty much is quotes from back here. New Testament's quotes from the Tanakh. And I had a great example of that. One day I was out with a rabbi friend here in town, because we got to eat. I don't go there to get into theological debates. I go there to have friends. We talk about movies. We talk about family and stuff like that. And he looked at me and he said, what is your favorite New Testament verse? And I said, Matthew 10:36. A man's enemy shall be of his own household. And he just looked at me, and I played him. I just sat there and smiled, and I said, I know, that's Micah 7:6. And he went, yeah. So it's like you start going into this thing. Now, I try to talk to those people in the places that I've been, I'm not welcome there. And they don't want to talk. They have got their preconceived notions, ideas. This is what it means. Dang, you slam a hand down on the pulpit. And anytime somebody does that, I just laugh. Because, again, it's like, well, I mean, that's what it means to you right this minute. But that's not going to be what it's mean, in 20 minutes. Yeah. And the things that I had learned made me such an enemy of so many people because it became, just like you were talking about earlier, a competition. It's not a competition. Everybody wants to be superior. I get that. Yeah. Mine's better than yours and you're going to burn in hell. My wife would tell me that all the time because I'd go to the synagogue and I'd go, I don't know, man. What I'm reading here and what's coming out of this stuff actually is making all of this make sense because there's context. You don't want to go into the context. You want the, you want the dogma. You want the. I don't do well with that. I never did. I fought that from the time that I was a kid. It's got to mean something else. It's got to go deeper than that. You can't just you can't just apply this to every single thing and that's it. It doesn't work that way. And besides that, I don't think God at any time in my existence has ever looked down at me and said, well, I did not expect that out of John. That just surprises me to no end. It's like, no, God's got a good sense of humor. And what I really gained from all of that was why David was called a man after God's own heart. Because if you read David, it's the biggest reprobate you'll ever come across in your life. But that man said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, forgive me. Bingo. That's what God was looking for.
Well, I'm so grateful that God didn't spare us the dark side of these heroes. Because, if it had always been, I killed Goliath and I won in battle and I was the apple of his eye, we're going to go, well, I can't match up to this thing. So I guess maybe I should just bail. Instead, God said, oh, no. Get a load of this. Get a load of that. This. And here's the thing, John. I don't even know that it's so much God just being honest about us being sinners because we know we are at the fall.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like God is saying to us, guys, you give me a lot of credit for grace. You're all I have to work with.
Yeah.
I got nowhere else to go. You're all I get. I have to work with flawed vessels to deliver this wine, and it's pure. But I'm stuck with you, and it's okay. I love you.
Yeah. I was in a Torah study one time, and they were talking about things that you could and could not do on the Sabbath. So it's Talmud. Yeah. And you know what the Talmud is? That's the rabbis arguing with one another about what these things mean. And they become codified in their laws. So, they were talking about if the bird comes into the building, into the room, and it's the Sabbath, they would eat the birds. Now, can you trap the bird? Okay, if the bird flies into the closet, can you close that closet and still not break the Sabbath? And they're going through all of these kinds of machinations. And I'm sitting there and I'm laughing to myself. And I finally said, guys, you're taking God's job away from him. And they said, what? I said, you're trying to figure out how not to sin. And God's number one deal is to forgive you for the sins that you've committed. But if you're taking God's job away from him, what's God going to do? Because you're perfect. And it caused so much consternation that day because it was like, wow, that's a point.
Well, in some other odd way, if you're using that analogy, how do you know the bird isn't a provision? Like they're hungry. It's like, here. Oh, I can't eat that. Well, and that's back to the old, to the Sabbath. Something about the Sabbath really threw people sideways about.
Well, because you could get killed for certain things.
Yeah.
God would wipe you out. You were not considered part of Israel if you did certain things. I have had the best time learning, and I have learned. One time my wife wanted to go to another church. She just kind of liked to church hop. She was in prophetic ministry. And I said, I really don't want to go. I said, I go to the synagogue. I walk in hungry. I leave physically fed. I leave spiritually fed. I learned so because I.
So
can
now, is
raise
this
my hand.
a messianic?
No, no.
Okay,
This is
so this is pure Jewish,
Orthodox.
put on the yarmulke
and
and
everything.
okay.
So I would.
And they go through a ceremony. I'm not sure how.
They've got their own rituals and stuff that I don't follow. It's like when they pray, it's a little different kind of a deal sometimes. When they what they consider worship, we consider music. They don't. It's prayers, and so I said I don't. I go to church. I walk in hungry. I leave starving because they don't teach me.
And they're very open to letting
Absolutely.
Gentiles
Because the
just
thing
walk
is,
into the temple.
Because I don't try to convert them. I didn't come there to convert them. I've had people say, "Why don't you try to convert the Jews? Tell them about Jesus." I go, "There's not a Jew alive that does not know about Jesus. I guarantee you. They only know what we've done to them. That's what they know. That's their representation of Jesus." So I went with her. The first thing and I felt so bad because I'm trying to please her, let her know, I'm not the heathen that she thinks I am. And the first thing the guy said was, of the 633 laws that Moses brought, da-da-da-da-da-da. I dropped my head, looked at her, and I said, "Anytime you're ready to go, I'm ready to get out of here." She said, "Why?" I said, 613, not 633. He doesn't know his Bible. But the congregation is sitting there being fed this, and they will fight you to the death because Pastor so-and-so said there's 633 commandments. And you go, the information is not correct. Okay, it's not the fact that it's not incorrect, but it's given with such authority. People get misled all the time. I've heard so many things that my heart breaks when I hear them because I look at people that go, I got chased away. I think differently. I don't do the dogma and the ritual and all this stuff. I think a little different, and they ostracize me. I was so angry at one time in this walk. I was in St. Paul, Minnesota. I took my Bible with me, had to go there a couple of extra days. I'm in the hotel, I'm reading Isaiah 66:5. And it said, "Those of your brethren that shun you, then raise their hands in the sanctuary and give praise and glory to God. To them will receive the greater shame." And I went, he did hear me. He did hear me, because this is what chased me out. Because you're not accepted. You don't follow this. This is why there's so many denominations. They've all got understandings that differ from one another, and each one of them is superior to the other. So you stand there and look at that and go, "I'm sorry, God, I'm not buying that." But by the same token, one time, again, being in the synagogue, and that's where I come from. That's the position I come from. I had watched a couple of shows on the Orthodox. And one day I sat in the car and I went, "God, seriously? I mean, really? Is that what you want? I can't do that. That's not within my nature. That to me is not following you. Having all your dots, your eyes."
But that's what Jesus came to abolish.
He abolished all
Was that
stuff.
legalistic element? Not about the tradition. I think the tradition was crucial
Tradition's
because it
wonderful.
establishes what's coming and how this is going to be redeemed.
But the foods, all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
no.
it's
Well,
like-
but you obviously, and we've talked, before. You want to go deep. I mean, this matters to you at the deepest levels. But you know what?
But does it matter if it's like you get all these things correct, but you still don't love people? You still don't, it's
Absolutely.
like,
Well, but
what do you
that's
do?
what Corinthians says.
Yeah.
You can have precise truth. I mean, perfect. But if it's not delivered with a sense of humbleness and dignity and love, he said, you might as well just be taking some cymbals and smashing around. Nobody's listening because they don't care what you say. They care what you do.
Absolutely.
Does this affect you? Does it make me interested in you? See, something that God has shown me recently. I told you earlier about my career going, sideways. Well, no. it just got perfectly focused. I thought my gift was comedy. I thought my gift was I can do comedy. And God said, no, your gift is communication. I've given you the ability to laymanized hard ideas so people can follow along. Oh, okay, well, I can do that. I know that. Yeah, that's it. The flavor it's delivered in is humor. That's all I did. It's just a delivery. The message of Jesus never changes, but the messengers do, and the seasons do, and the cultures do. So you have to adapt, not compromise. You have to adapt because it's a different world. But the idea of even realizing that you're talking about the denominations, which I don't have a problem with the denominations, frankly, because I feel like, people have different tastes.
Absolutely.
And if I need this to hear God and I need that, I don't care.
Yeah.
As long as the essentials aren't being bypassed, then it is what it is. But the truth is, John, the moment you read your Bible, you're off. Why? Because it's in English.
Right.
Let's start there. You can't make direct translations from Hebrew or Aramaic or Greek or Spanish or Persian.
And it was in Hebrew to begin with.
Yeah.
And when I would be in the study in the Torah, literally we would be reading something. And again, it's Hebrew on one side and it's English on this side. I would read something and it literally would double bold, jump up to a 33 font from a 10, pop out at me, and I found myself going, whoa, wait a minute, what's that say in Hebrew? We would read it. It was different. It was a little bit different. The vowels were different. The things that we thought were there, it changed every single time. The education became phenomenal because now when I listen to people, it's like, okay, well, now wait a minute. It says that, but what about these vowels here that mean this and that? And it changes it completely to masculine as opposed. It doesn't include everybody. And you run into great opposition because it's supposed to be a cookie cutter for everybody. It doesn't work that way.
No, it is so dynamic, the Old Testament. And you have the Jewish, what do they call it? It's how the numbers are used.
Numerology.
It's not numerology. There's a term they use for it. I forgot. Anyways, but the way that even numbers have specifics, like 40 days, has a very specific, and it's constantly repeated. Oh, it means something. 7 is the number of perfection and completion, because it was 7 days for the I think is it 3? I think is the number of God. I don't know.
Trinity.
There's all these numbers, but that's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
That they literally, you can count these things, and when you get to this many, and it's like, if that's not sort of a divine revelation that this is real, guys, I'm really a part of this thing, and this is how you're going to interpret it. But you obviously want to go deep, and you want it, and you're willing to be indignant. I've battled with anger issues over my life, but I've also realized that there were times when it was righteous. God says be angry,
there's righteous
but
anger.
sin not. And I go, well, how do I do that? Because we always think anger is off. And he goes, well, no, have you ever heard of righteous indignation? This is when you turn tables. Yeah. This is when Jesus with the lamb and the little sweetness and says, back off, get a load of this. You're screwing with my Father's house. Yeah. That masculine element of Christ often is lost. But well,
there's other elements too. So one time I was in a Torah study, and we were talking about Moses and Abraham, and who was David or Jehoshaphat, and so they are arguing with God, like Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, if I find 50 righteous, well, he goes, okay, I'll relent. Okay, this is making you look bad if you do this. So if I find 40, he goes down. So they're negotiating with God in a way, but they're arguing with God. Jacob, the wrestling with God. I thinking about this, and I'm driving home, and I'm just confused, trying to figure it out. And I called the rabbi, and I said, okay, let me see if I got this right. God wants us to debate with him and to argue with him. And he goes, oh my God, you got it. And I went, I got it.
Come let
because
us.
this is what I've been doing all the time. You know, God, how something happens over here for somebody. How am I going to convince them that you're loving and kind, and the only thing that's happened to them in their life has been this kind of terrible stuff? How do I convince you're not doing your job and you're making me look? It's like,
Yeah.
and you know, now if I were to come to that strictly from the way that I was trained, I just look up and go, oh God, you know what you're doing. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you're sovereign, and how dare I? How
Yes,
dare
right.
the common pot, wonder why you made me this way instead of like that. But this same God said, "Come, let us reason together." I'm so
Exactly.
grateful for that, because and it does bring up something that I was kind of alluding to when I was telling about how you do care about the deeper things. I've been a Christian my whole life, since I was 9. Now I had moments in my prodigal journey. It seems to be very typical that you either get saved early and then go off sideways and then come back, and that's that. Or you're been a sinner and you get saved and you go, oh, I'm never going back. Either way, it's almost like God allows this. The Amish do it, where they kind of let their kids go off for this moment and say, I want you to compare. Because once you're in, I expect you to stay in. So make a choice, but at least make it legit, make it sincere. Not because of us.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't matter anyways. It's all false. Just live the life that you believe that you've been called to do, and good luck. But hopefully you choose wisely. Do you have anything to leave with, John? Anything you want to tell the people out there? If not,
No,
I'm not.
I've really enjoyed this. I when I do a podcast, it's normally, well, what was your favorite color, and what it's like.
No.
Okay, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
See how far we can drag this thing.
Oh,
down,
no.
So to be able to get into deep conversations and things that, in my estimation, matter.
Yes.
It's kind of far and few between.
Well, and folks, you guys have seen many Christians and non-Christians on my show. It's very eclectic what I do, because like we talked about, all truth is God's truth. As long as you're a truth teller and courageous, I want to hear from you. I also want to teach people that we can learn to agree to disagree agreeably, because that's so important. And learn not to make enemies out of people that you disagree with. That's something more important. This country, I don't worship. I worship Christ, but I'm grateful for it, and I want it to remain free. And you can't do that if we can't learn to get along. We just have to be able to do that. And as Christ followers, you are obligated to show people the way to get along, even with disagreement. You're the last truth teller on earth. And remember, folks, as two believers who are the same and different lives, different personalities, that's the beauty of the body of Christ. We come in lots of flavors and colors and shapes and sizes and ages, and thank God he gives us variety. And yep, you may not look like me, act like me, or denominationally be similar to me. So what? That's the beauty of it. Somebody needs my version, somebody needs your version. Everybody needs Jesus, and you're the way to get there, and it might be different than mine. Remember, if they ever say you're politically incorrect, always say thank you for the compliment. Nothing could be greater than to stand for truth against those who want to censor your free speech. And remember, when you come to Brad Stein Has Issues, I'm hoping to continue to do what I'm called to do, which is putting the woke back to sleep. See you next Monday.